All right, we're live. Welcome to another Nerd Stalker interview podcast. Good morning. This is Greg Vlory, aka Social Greg, on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network. Today, I'm pleased again to talk with founder Robert Pratten of Transmedia Storytelling Limited, which makes a product called Conductor. And Conductor is an audience engagement tool that integrates storytelling, gaming, and marketing automation, basically transmedia. So, and today we're going to get an update on AR and transmedia storytelling because of all this Pokemon Go craze going out there where everyone's getting out and immersing themselves into this game, which is great. I want Robert kind of catch us up on the state of AR and transmedia storytelling because I think you could take Pokemon Go to another level. So anyway, good morning, Robert, or good afternoon. You're back in the
Yeah,
UK.
hello, Craig. Yeah, nice to see you again.
Yeah, you're fresh off the San Diego Comic-Con and the anime
Expo,
yeah, expo tour, I guess, right?
Yeah, no, it's really good. Yeah, just a flying visit to San Francisco and then back to London. It's always good to get in when I can.
Yeah, no, thanks for taking the time. I know you're about to go on vacation, a well-deserved vacation, probably.
Thank you.
So the latest craze in AR is Pokemon Go, and we all know about it. Very simple but an effective use of well-known game, great use of their IP, obviously, and social interaction, getting people to go out and capture Pokemon in various places. So you have to walk, for everyone, you have to walk to capture Pokemon. So, the more you walk, the more you'll see more Pokemon to catch. So that's kind of the way I look at it. My son has a different view of it, but that's transmedia storytelling is a different kind of story beast. It's telling a story across multiple media platforms, and although it doesn't happen always with a degree of audience participation, interaction, collaboration. So everything Pokemon Go has, but not the story. So Robert, tell us about how AR has evolved, and maybe how Pokemon Go could go to another level if they used more transmedia.
Yeah, sure. It's, I think what's interesting about Pokemon Go is that what's caught, it's kind of like caught the attention of the press is the AR, the augmented reality aspect, but actually it's really a location-based game. I mean, that's the key component, and the AR aspect of it is kind of pretty weak compared to other AR implementations. I mean, it's really just putting a cute character in your, on top of the thing that your phone can see. I mean, the image doesn't track with anything that you're seeing, but it's effective from the point. Take a snapshot, and it looks cute, and you can like send this to people. So, in terms of building in some sort of referral mechanic, I mean that's quite a good that's quite a good move. But I think what's most interesting about it is the fact that it's a location-based game and it gets people off the couch, and that there seems to be lots, especially in Europe where we have sort of public health service. Obviously, chronic illness is a thing that the taxpayer picks up for everybody. So lots of the health providers are looking for these sort of like opportunities to get people exercising more, to get their sort of like heart going, get their diabetes down, and so this is a bit of a godsend for them, because people are exercising that might not have exercised otherwise. And I think one of the interesting things so in London where I live in quite a touristy neighbourhood. I live really near to the Tower of London, so there must be like 30 of these sort of like poker stops where I am, and so you see people keep coming up, and doing it. And if for me, I try to do a little bit of exercise in that, but now I've got an added incentive. I just walk around the block and like flick the little Pokemon thing to generate some eggs or whatever it is to chuck at these Pokeball things. What I took away from it was it kind of allowed me to see certain things in my neighbourhood that I just passed by before and I hadn't really paid any attention to. It's quite funny, right? Because there's like this old stone and some crumpled bits of iron, and I discovered that was actually art work. That was actually sculpture. I thought, oh, like there's no, because it's just out there on the sidewalk, and it doesn't have a plaque on it to say by a particular person. So that was quite good. But then in other situations, I found that I kind of had my head down and I was closing off what was around me. So it kind of worked. It kind of works sort of both ways in that regard. Yeah, I think what will be interesting about it, you mentioned the social component, and I think the Pokemon Go comes off the back of the Ingress experience, which has been like massively popular, and I would attribute a big part of the success of Ingress to the social component, the fact that people get together and they get a lot of camaraderie out of that. And I think if Pokemon Go is going to survive like the immediate hype, it's going to be because of the social community. I think whenever you want to build an experience that runs over an extended period of time, you need the community. That's why people sort of stick around. For me, I mean, it's a big improvement on Ingress, because Ingress I found like there must be like an hour or a 90-minute tutorial which I had to like, and it sort of like really, it was a big like hurdle. It put me off for ages, and but nevertheless, even with Pokemon, I still feel like I'm doing a lot of grinding. Like it still feels like there's a lot of flicking and walking and that, with not much back from it. And I never was into Pokemon like a lot of other people were. So I think if you grew up with Pokemon and that was your thing, this you must be in, you know, seventh heaven now.
Oh yeah, well, I think the people probably who were born in the '90s most likely would probably be into Pokemon, maybe late '80s, '90s, basically millennials and the gens, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think, yeah, I'm the same as you. I was kind of, I'm a little bit indifferent. I'm more interested in what it's creating around me, right? Getting kids to go out, like you were saying, getting people maybe with potential health conditions to actually exercise and actually interact. And then for people like you and I, probably knowing their neighborhood a lot more than they ever did, right?
Exactly. And I'm hoping that for the market, because there'd have been a lot of people that had location-based games, or this kind of augmented reality type games, that they would have approached funders or clients and pitched this sort of idea, and they might have had, been greeted with some sort of skepticism. But now people are going to be able to go and go, hey, that Pokemon Go experience that everyone's talking about, I've got something just like that. And so, maybe it's opened the door to lots of other people, because there are lots of other games of this type, but they don't have a big brand sort of behind them. They don't have the Pokemon sort of recognition really to get them kickstarted. So maybe it's going to open the door to more types of this experience.
That's a good point you make. It's that something you brought up earlier. It was simple, and you don't have to get too to create an immersive game like they did. You didn't have to do something very elaborate, but let me put you on the other side there. Let's talk more about, let's say you were the product manager of Pokemon Go, and you want to extend this thing and you wanted to put a transmedia element into it. What would you do?
Well, it's really trying to find the story. So it's saying, okay, I've got all of these different characters, but what's the relationship between them? What's their relationship with me? And rather than just motivating somebody through game mechanics, can we motivate them through a story? Is there some other compelling reason? Because I did some exercise and it ended on a cliffhanger, or this type of thing. So I think that would be an interesting thing to explore.
Yeah,
because I think not everybody's motivated by collecting stuff, and so the storytelling aspect would give you another angle to capture a new raft of people, I think.
It's interesting, and I talked to my son just the other day. We had dinner, and he said, I'm just interested in just collecting stuff. He goes like that,
There you go.
and he tells me that he doesn't want to be known as one of those Pokemon Go players. So he does things like kind of does something under the slide. He kind of like, looks around who's around him, and he kind of just, kind of like, does his little ball. Yeah, I know. He really tries to be discreet. It's really funny, I was just laughing when he was telling me the story. And but you bring up another good point, is that they could, to extend this craze past Farmville proportions and all this stuff, right? Possibly Halloween, they could create a story around Halloween. They could do something, there has to be something here, right?
Oh yeah, Thanksgiving, you could pick any kind of day, but it is really anchored in locations, and like Ingress, it was trying to get people to go to sort of points of interest, and so maybe there's an opportunity to build out a story from a particular point of interest.
Well,
I mean, there's been lots of, to have a new appreciation of what happened at that particular site, especially if it was a fun site.
Sure. Well, well, that's a good segue into this next segment I wanted to talk to you about. But thank you for your comments on Pokemon Go, scavenger hunting, and you just came off of a couple projects in the anime and cosplay world with a company called Kodansha, which is a famous Japanese manga publisher. So, can you talk a little bit about those projects you did with scavenger hunting? Because the real escape game here in San Francisco is a very big thing, actually. So a lot of companies are actually using the company called the Real Escape Game, and they were based in Japantown for the longest while, and then they moved out, but they still do some games in Japantown. But a lot of companies were using them for company outings, team things, and and scavenger hunting. We do a lot in Japantown during the festivals here too, because it just gets all the kids involved. But talk a little bit about your really transmedia immersive scavenger hunts that you did.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think one of the nice things, so Kodansha was going to be at the Anime Expo with a new property called Your Lie in April. It's a book that's been very popular in Japan. I think this was its first release in the US. And then at the San Diego Comic-Con, they had an artist called Nihai there, who was the artist from Blam and Biomega and Knights of Sidonia. So he's done a lot. So I think his work is very popular. And he was there with, I think he'd been sponsored by a number of different partners, because he's got his own toy range, his own clothing range, as well as the as well as the books. And so he was going to announce, and he has announced, that Blam, which is a very popular manga, is now an animated series. So they showed the trailer. So what Kodansha wanted to do was really engage the fans and give them something back. I think a lot of these projects are about saying thank you to the fans that come along. And the nice thing about Scavenger Hunt is it's something that most people, I was going to say everybody, but most people get straight away. So I think one of the problems with a lot of transmedia projects is they take explaining, or you have to go through some sort of training. But the great thing about a scavenger hunt is you just text, because it was SMS based predominantly, but they just say just text start and off you go. And you go around 4 to 6 booths at the exhibition hall collecting clues. And then if you get all the clues, you get to the end of the scavenger hunt, and then you get like a goodie bag, like a tote bag full of t-shirts and books and stuff like that. So it's quite, it's a nice reward at the end for putting the effort in. And what we did to sort of augment the text-based stuff was we added a web application layer. So you would get a text message with a URL. If you click the URL, then you get more of a rich media experience, because with the text message, obviously one of the strengths of it is it's very straightforward, and you don't need internet. But one of the good things about the web app that we've got is that you can have embedded videos, embedded images, and you could have like a two-way chat with the artist in the case of Nihai, and with the different characters from the Your Lie in April. So Your Lie in April is a story about this guy who sort of loses his mojo. So what you do in the game is you discover different musical notes, and it's sort of synonymous with him sort of regaining his skills. And then at the end you get like the symphony. So we sort of take the idea from the piece, so that it's, it feels like it's in world, and each character gave you a little bit of background on them and what they were interested in, because obviously the US audiences might not be familiar with these characters. And it was pretty good. I mean, like, it was really, when it's popular when people start cheating straight away, because that's the first. I mean, that's the thing. Like, so we always say you probably take a third of the time to design the game, and then 2/3 of the time trying to stop the cheats and people breaking it. I mean, like, you have to really watch, what people are going to try to get around it.
That in game playing, that's so common these days.
That's part of the game, though. I mean, I like that sort of thing. Like, if you have an open world game, you sort of think, how far to the edge of the world can I walk before it tells me to stop? Or can I, you want to test the limits of it. That's part of the exploration. So, no, it's good. It's good. It's good results.
So Nihei was actually texting live into the game.
No. He was there, but we'd already captured his conversations into the platform.
I see.
So then it just looked like he was talking to you.
I see.
We'd made him into a bot, so we'd automated him.
Nihei bot. I love that. But
it's a kind of a cyberpunk idea. You should be pleased with that.
So I guess what you were kind of saying, that even scavenger hunting is location based in a way, right? I mean,
it is. Yeah, exactly.
Go circle around here. Back to AR. Embedding elements into the web interface and stuff like that, so you can understand, where you're going to find something, and it tells you something a little bit more about the story that's being told. I mean, that's where AR could actually enhance a lot of these scavenger hunts, right?
Well, I think as well. I mean, we've played a lot of these sort of like location-based experiences where they rely on audio, and they can be like really effective. So, for example, you might go to a location. Let's say it's like one, like the BART station or something, and the audio file starts playing, and at first it might make the similar sounds from the BART station that you would expect there, 5-car train for Fremont or whatever, that type of thing, and then it gets subverted. When I think of the BART, I always think of 5-car train to Fremont, and then it gets kind of like perverted with the character popping in there and hijacking what would have been. So already you get this sort of augmentation of a real place, but it's going straight to your imagination through the audio,
right.
And so you need it. You needn't think of. Obviously, commonly we think of augmented reality as a visual kind of thing, but you could do it with audio or any other kind of means. It's a way of taking a particular reality and then enhancing it or perverting it, twisting it in a particular way to really strike at the imagination. I think that's the key thing.
And that's a very good point. You say, yeah, you're right. We're all kind of thinking visual, video or whatever, and doing it audio based to kind of enhance the sense of hearing. I guess if they ever figure out this IoT stuff, smells, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Get the sensory things going, other sensory things going in your mind, and that could be kind of cool. It's like and you got me thinking about this. Like sounds, definitely have a nostalgic feel, or can have a nostalgic feel to me. Smells definitely do. Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's actually
it's pretty good. There's loads of stuff you can do. I mean, for example, you could even use these like beacons, like the Bluetooth beacons, and then if you've already pre-registered, when you walk past a particular location, you can get a phone call. So your phone goes off, you answer the phone, and it's a character talking to you about a particular thing, because you're at that location now. It knows where you are because you got picked up by the beacon. Or you could do it on GPS, of course, but the beacons are quite nice because you can design a game and then put the beacons into the environment rather than sort of tie it down to one particular geographic location.
Oh no, that's really cool because for small area coverage, especially like cons and expos and stuff like that, the beacons probably will work out really well. You don't have that, it's typical scavenger hunt. You have that physical guy there.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that I'm more of a techie guy, so having a beacon there instead of a guy is kind of a little bit more interesting to me. But because of what you just said, you could actually text the guy or have a guy pick up a phone call when he gets there and actually talk to the character. I mean, there's pretty cool stuff you could do, right?
No, exactly. Yeah, it feels more immersive because it's sort of what would happen normally. Like it's what happens in real life. You get a phone call from people, you know what I mean? It's quite.
Oh man,
it's quite good.
I'm thinking like I'm thinking Born Identity and all this stuff. That could be kind of cool.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, Mission Impossible. Get a call. Get a call for your next mission. Anyway, well, thanks, Robert. I know you're pretty busy, and it's the end of the day at the UK, and you probably want to get packed for your vacation. So, anyway, I thank you for your time, and we'll close off the interview here. Anyway, any new projects coming up that you want to alert the audience to
well, we've been doing. Yeah, we've actually been doing a lot of work in training, looking at transmedia training and trying to use storytelling and gaming to change people's like behaviors, because there's a lot of like in London, finance industry is quite a big thing, and the regulators getting really tough on like compliance issues, making sure that people actually know the law and actually act within it. And so it's not enough just to go on a training course, because people have got the knowledge. It's having them actually implement the knowledge and do what they're supposed to do. And so one of the things we've been doing is creating these story worlds where you see the consequences of maybe not following the actions. Because you think, like, take something like money laundering. Somebody might think, it's a victimless crime, but actually it's not, because a lot of that might fund terrorism. And so if you see the impact of what you're doing, that a car gets blown up in a high street, that really brings it home to you about the importance. So it's not just this mandatory sort of training that you have to do anymore. There are actually real world consequences outside of your outside of your office, basically. So it's really looking at all different ways that we can take training into the 21st century, because too much of it is just dull, just sat at a desktop clicking these sort of check boxes. And I know loads of people who just get their personal assistant to do it for them, because it's mandatory. Go, just do that thing for me, just click through. And so we're trying to add the storytelling and then remove the requirement to do it all at one time. So we say, why don't rather than take someone out of their job, and do it like on a 3-day course, why don't we spread that over 2 weeks and do it during their commute? And why don't like, if we wanted to evolve like the location-based stuff, why don't we do that? Why don't we send them to a place that has some significance for that compliance and for the storytelling world? So it's really interesting. Yeah, you'd be surprised where like there's the storytelling aspect is getting a lot of traction now, and particularly the transmedia storytelling, because just like with transmedia storytelling with entertainment, where we're saying we're trying to build the entertainment around the audience, we can build the training around the trainee, so that they're not required to sit in a classroom necessarily. And this makes it much more palatable. And then again, it comes up with this thing about how do we get them to adhere to it? How do we extend that engagement? So then you might bring in a social aspect to it, so that they, continue to develop. So taking the idea of a MOOC where everyone has to be online, but why don't we expand the MOOC? Why don't we say that this is a transmedia type MOOC, so people can network and discuss stuff on Twitter or whatever. So we're looking at some really quite groundbreaking ideas. I think there's not many people that are exploring these things, as far as I'm aware.
Not in the training aspect. I mean, and I think you're at the right juncture, because I think people want to be entertained these days, and they're expecting it. And to sit through a hour lecture on some dry topic you don't know anything about. I mean, well, you know some about, but
Yeah, or you have no interest in, for example.
yeah, I mean, the online, and then it evolved into the taking, these videos you'd watch and then answering a bunch of questions after the videos in a corporate setting, right? But actually being immersed in actually training would be wonderful. I mean, I'm glad that you guys are doing that. That's a wonderful place to be. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. No, it's really exciting. We just finished 2 projects actually. One is a cyber warfare game for Al Jazeera, and that's looking to launch in September.
Oh wow, okay.
So in that, yeah, you role play as a journalist investigating Syria's electronic army. And while you're doing that, these different characters are using social engineering techniques to hack you.
Oh my god!
I mean, so it's really, it's really quite exciting.
That's real life.
So yeah, exactly. That's what we're trying to do. In fact, the original version was too scary. They went, oh no, we have to like, tone it down, because we had like doing these like man in the middle attacks through emails and stuff like that. And they go, oh, we're not going to be able to get that to fly. So that's pretty good. So that's exciting. And we did a project for the UK Ministry of Defence, basically looking at adaptive training, so that we can take information from people's wearables, we can monitor their sort of state of mind or their heart rate and stuff like that, and use that to adapt a scenario. So we got the online video there of like a hostage rescue situation.
That's
so
right,
you can,
yeah.
So it's pretty, it's pretty nice. So all it's funny where the storytelling will take you. So we still love the manga projects and stuff like that. That's fantastic. But we have this other kind of side to our business now, which is the training, and we find that they're really complementary with each other, because then we can take, let's say we do that stuff in training with the wearables for the Ministry of Defence,
right?
And we can say, what if we had some activity-based content? What if we had an experience where we unlock content based on your heart rate, for example? So we can do all sorts of craziness now. It's really quite exciting.
Well, yeah, God, I could talk to you hours about this, but I mean, let's talk about one more thing is technology, how technology has evolved, right? So 2010, you were just talking about, some potential uses where you can embed images, kind of like Pokemon Go in 2010. But now, you kind of brought up something else, is that maybe the wearable IoT technology could play into a lot of this sensory stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, definitely, especially in this area. So we've always been big on personalization, because if you can personalize the content, wherever it is, then you can make it more relevant, and you can tune it in with people's sort of behaviors.
Right.
And this sort of adaptive training area is another way of saying personalized training. So you can make the training exercises more difficult or easier based on someone's ability or what interest they've shown. So you might say, for example, there's this guy BJ Fogg, who talks about motivation, and so he'll say, like, you can't motivate someone to do something. What you can do though is work out when they're at peak motivation, or they're sort of disinterested, and give them either a tough task or an easy task. So if they're really motivated, give them something challenging to do, because they've got that kind of inertia to want to do it. And if they're not very motivated, don't try to give them a tough task, because they'll just give up completely. Give them a low ball thing that they can cope with. And so what's good about the wearables is if you combine that with their other activity, there's the possibility that you can try to detect or imply what their motivation might be, and use that to determine what you're going to send them next, or what request you're going to ask them. Wow. So it's really about establishing a feedback loop, and it's completely opt-in, of course. I mean, you can't like secretly get someone's details. So they willingly enter into this relationship because it's something that they either care about or they're just curious. But it's really interesting area.
Adaptive training, that's so cool. And technology is just helping this along. This is so great. So
yeah, it's good times, Greg.
Well, anyway, thanks again for your time there, Robert. So how can listeners find out more about your company and yourself and Conductor?
Yeah, just look for me on Twitter as Rob Pratten, and then you'll find all the links to Conductor and everything else that we do. I think Twitter's the easiest way to connect, really, because it's where Twitter is, and it's just a short one word, Rob Pratten.
Yeah. At Rob Pratten. I love that. And anyway, thank you again. That was Robert Pratten, CEO of Transmedia Storytelling Limited, maker of Conductor, integrating multiple media worlds into one. So anyway, thanks for joining us, everyone. This is Greg Valori, aka Social Greg, on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network, where we believe in tech, startups, design, and you. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and be careful out there. Thanks again, Robert. I appreciate that.
Thank you.